My mother discarded me with a garbage bag. Years later, she reappeared, seeking money. Clear my debts, she insisted. I handed her a garbage bag and said goodbye. My mother dumped me at a shelter when I was 16 with nothing but a garbage bag. Years later, she came back demanding I pay her debts. So, I returned the favor. I gave her a garbage bag of my own, and it contained everything she deserved and nothing she wanted. I was only 16 when she threw me out. Just a garbage bag full of clothes, no hug, no farewell. Just the screech of tires as her tail lights vanished down the road. Figure things out, she'd said. That was her parting advice. The December wind sliced through my thin jacket, the seams of that crumpled bag already giving way. I spent that Christmas in a group home, watching other kids open donated gifts while I got nothing. They'd run out. I remember staring into a styrofoam cup of watery cocoa, wondering if this was what growing up entailed. I hadn't seen or heard from her since, until yesterday. My name's Ryan. I'm 30 now, and honestly, I've carved out a pretty good life for myself, considering. I've got a solid career in logistics, a little 3-bedroom rental in the suburbs, and a garage full of half-finished projects. They're my escape. I keep to myself mostly. My coworkers think I'm the cool guy, but they don't know the half of it. No one knows about my mother. No one knows about the shelter. It's just easier that way. Yesterday afternoon, I was walking up to my porch, keys in one hand, a supermarket bag with frozen pizza and cat litter in the other. My cat, Will, was already giving me hell from inside, meowing like I was 6 years late. That's when I saw him. A man, mid-50s maybe, standing by the sidewalk, shifting his weight nervously. When he finally met my gaze, he tried to smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Ryan," he rasped, his voice dry, like he hadn't used it much. "Yeah," I said softly, not recognizing him. He didn't explain. He just reached into his coat and handed me an envelope. I swear, I stared at it like it was going to explode. The calligraphy on the front, it hit me like a sucker punch. Slanted cursive. Neat. Too neat. I hadn't seen handwriting like that since I was a kid, signing permission slips for field trips. I never got to go on. "Who gave you this?" I asked. "She said you'd know," he explained, then turned and walked away like he had a bus to catch or a crime to flee. I didn't open it immediately. Will's insistent meows dragged me inside. I fed him, put the kettle on, and gazed at that envelope on the kitchen counter like it was radioactive. Finally, I cracked it open. Inside, a single sheet of paper. No greeting, no apology, just one sentence. "You are doing well now. Could you assist your mother out?" That was it. No return address, no explanation. Just that lovely little script, as if we'd spoken last week, not 15 years ago. And just like that, all the memories I'd buried, shoved into some emotional crawl space, came rushing back. The night she kicked me out, she screamed that I was too much. She looked at me like I was just an unwanted weight. I've tried not to hate her over the years. Part of me just assumed she was dead, that addiction had consumed her, or she'd simply moved on. I'd learned to live without answers. But now she wanted assistance. I didn't sleep much that night. I lay awake, the note on my nightstand, turning it over in my head like a riddle I wasn't sure I wanted to solve. A part of me thought it was a prank, but that penmanship? Unmistakable. I knew that handwriting as well as I knew a childhood scar. Faint but lasting. The next morning I called out of work. First time in months. My manager was fine. I sounded off, he said. I didn't argue. I spent the day pacing, wondering what help meant. Money? Shelter? A kidney? Then, around lunchtime, I made a mistake. I looked her up. I'm not sure what I expected. Jail records? An obituary? Instead, I found a Facebook profile. Same name. A recent photo, maybe a year old. She looked older, weathered. Her smile was too big, the kind you wear when you know you're selling something. Her About section was a novel of pseudo-spiritual rubbish and inspirational quotes from people she'd never read. Then I saw it, a post from 3 weeks ago, When life breaks apart, it is occasionally the children we have let go of who return to lift us up, praying for a miracle. I stared at that message for 6 agonizing minutes before closing the tab. She was fishing. She wasn't apologizing. She was setting the stage. Worse, strangers were commenting, "Stay strong, Mama. Your son is lucky to have a mother like you." One woman even offered to start a GoFundMe. I felt nauseous. She was playing the victim. No mention of the shelter. No mention of the garbage bag. Just this image of a poor, struggling mother who had abandoned her son out of love or necessity, now seeking reconciliation. My rage, a 3-year-old version of myself, fought its way to the surface. And just as I was about to give up, tear the message and throw it away, my doorbell rang. Again. This time, it wasn't some nervous man. It was her. She stood on my porch like she owned the place, like she hadn't vanished midway through my puberty. I didn't open the door immediately. I just stared through the peephole, paralyzed. Her hair was badly dyed blonde, roots showing, but her coat looked expensive designer. And heels. She wore heels like she was going to brunch. She rang the bell again. "Ryan, I know you're in there," she called, her voice singing Sanji. "Can we speak? Talk." After 15 years of silence, she wanted to speak. I opened the door halfway, enough for her to see my face, but not enough for her to enter. She grinned, as if greeting an old friend. "Here you are. Oh, look at you, so mature." I didn't smile back. "Why are you here?" Her face dipped slightly. Just a flash. Then she snapped back into character. "Look, I know this is a lot, but I've been going through something, and you've done so well for yourself. I hoped we might reconnect. You know, family." "Family," I replied, barely keeping the harshness out of my voice. "Come on, don't be like that," she murmured, already looking past me into the house, inspecting it. "It's been a long time. I understand. But people change. Life happens." I said nothing. I just let the silence hang. She took it as an invitation. "I'm staying nearby," she said. "Just for a while. Perhaps we could have dinner? Catch up? I can explain everything." I crossed my arms. "Explain what?" "That you left me in a shelter without looking back." Her smile failed again, but this time it lasted longer. "Ryan, I did what I had to do. You don't realize how difficult things were back then." I laughed. I couldn't help it. "Yes, I do. I lived it." Her eyes furrowed for a moment, just a second, and in that little moment, I glimpsed the truth. She hadn't come here seeking. She walked inside like she owned the place. I heard her heels click on the hardwood floor as she surveyed the living room. Her gaze lingered on the couch, the TV, the framed photo of Will on the mantel. Everything but me. I closed the door slowly, trying to process that this woman, my mother, was standing in my house as if she hadn't vanished from the face of the earth 15 years ago. "You've done well for yourself," she added, entering the kitchen uninvited. "Much better than I expected, to be honest. I always said you were the smart one." I didn't reply. I just watched her open my refrigerator like it was her own. She helped herself to a bottle of water, cracked it open, took a long swallow, then turned to face me. "So," she murmured, leaning against the counter, "are you seeing anyone, Ava?" I raised an eyebrow. "Is that really why you're here?" She gave me a shrug, like, "Don't be so dramatic," and smiled again. Can't a mother be curious about her only son? That word, mother, felt like a thorn in my skin. I wanted to shout. I wanted to ask her where she had been on graduation day, when I moved into my first apartment, when I got promoted. I wanted to show her the scar on my arm from that night in the shelter, when a kid smashed a broken chair leg into my bicep because I had the last carton of milk. I wanted to ask her if she ever thought about me in all those years. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I asked why now. She blinked. "Why what? Why are you reaching out now? After 15 years of silence?" "I told you," she said, a flash of guilt and hesitation that vanished almost as swiftly. She sighed and placed the bottle on the counter, like she was getting ready to perform. "Look," she said, "things haven't been easy for me either. I made mistakes. I trusted the wrong people. Got into a bad situation. I never meant to hurt you, Ryan. I was overwhelmed. I was broke. You were difficult. Always asking questions. Always needing things I couldn't give." I gave her a hard stare. I was 16. She flinched slightly. "You were supposed to be the one who gave, not the one who walked away." Her smile faded completely. "Do you think it was easy for me, raising you alone after your father bailed? Do you know what I gave up to keep us afloat?" My jaw clenched. "I know what you gave up. Me." That was it. That angry look in her eyes. She did not enjoy being called out. She never had. "Don't guilt me," she responded sternly. "You don't know the whole story." "No," I replied. "Then tell me. Tell me why you never wrote, called, or asked if I was still alive." She moved past me into the living room and sat on the couch, crossing her legs as if she lived here. "I figured you were better off. You're independent, resourceful. Look at you. You didn't need me." I leaned against the wall, arms folded. "But now you need me." There was an unnaturally long pause. Then she looked up with that same smile from her Facebook photo. A con artist smile. "I'm in a bit of a financial bind," she remarked. "I was hoping you could help." There it was. The actual cause. Like a spider crawling out of a crevice. I knew that's where this was going. I quietly asked how much. She sat up straighter, adjusted her skirt. "It's complicated. I got involved with this guy, Eric, a real estate investor. Big dreams, big promises. We were building something, but then he bailed. Left me holding everything. I've got debt collectors breathing down my neck. I'm 4 months behind on rent. I just need a little help to get back on my feet." I nearly laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so on brand. She walked out on me in the dead of winter with nothing but a garbage bag of clothes. But now she wanted me to save her from her poor choices. "Ryan," she said softly, "you're doing well now. You have a house and a job. You're not struggling like I am." I shook my head slowly. "No, I struggled. You just weren't there to see it." She grimaced as if I'd just spoken a foreign language. "Don't be like that. I'm your mother." That word again. "I've got to go," I said. "I've got plans." She seemed astonished. "It's only 3 o'clock in the afternoon." "Still, I'm busy." She looked at me, deciding whether to guilt-trip me or erupt. Then she stood up, forcing a laugh. "All right, I'll go, but we're not done talking. I'll come by tomorrow." I never said it was okay. "You didn't have to," she answered casually, already heading towards the door. "Family doesn't need permission." And just like that, she was gone. That night, I didn't sleep again. I sat in the garage, half-heartedly working on an ancient engine I wasn't sure still ran. My brain was spinning. Every time I closed my eyes, I was 16 again, hunched in a bunk bed under a thin blanket while another child screamed in the corner. I remembered how I used to hope she would change her mind. I kept checking the shelter sign-in sheet to see if anyone had asked for me. She never did. But now that I had something she could use, I felt like part of the family again. The next day, she returned. This time with someone. A woman in her early 20s. Long dark hair in a high ponytail. She looked annoyed to be there. Didn't even try to grin. "Ryan," my mother exclaimed joyfully. "I want you to meet your sister." I blinked. "My what?" "Half-sister," she clarified. "This is Ava. She's 22. I did the math in my head. That meant Mom had her only 4 years after abandoning me. Ava scanned me up and down like she was assessing the market value of my sweatshirt. "Cool location," she observed bluntly. "Might use better lighting." I just stared at both of them. "Why are you really here?" Mom sighed. "Look, Ryan, I didn't want to drop all this on you at once. But Ava's also going through a tough time. She recently lost her job and needs a place to stay till she finds her footing. You have a second bedroom, she pointed out, as if that meant anything. I laughed. You mean the room I turned into a home office for the job I work, so I don't end up begging my estranged son for handouts? Ava folded her arms. You don't have to be a jerk about it. I turned to face her. You don't even know me. And you don't know me, she snapped. But maybe if you weren't so bitter, you'd see we're not the enemy here. I looked at my mother. She knew about me? My mother shrugged. I told her about you recently. She was curious. No, I replied. She knew I existed while I was sleeping in group homes, and you were raising her in a house somewhere, weren't you? Ava seemed a little uneasy now. I did what I had to, Mom stated. Ava's father stuck around. We had a better situation. It's not like I could go back for you. I felt like the room was tilting. All this time, I assumed she'd plummeted, lost control, been unable to locate me. But she didn't want to. She chose her. You need to leave, I said. I felt like the room was tilting. All this time, I assumed she'd plummeted, lost control, been unable to locate me. But she didn't want to. She chose her. You need to leave, I said. Ryan, be reasonable, she said. You have no idea how hard it's been for us. Us. I inquired. There is no us. Ava murmured something under her breath. My mother shot her a glance. What did you say? I asked. Nothing, Ava replied. Just that you're being dramatic. So get over it. People have difficult childhoods all the time. That did it. I stepped forward, my voice hushed. Get out. Mom huffed. You're making a mistake. No, I replied, opening the door. I made a mistake letting you in. Ava rolled her eyes as she exited. Whatever. Mom hesitated at the doorway. You'll regret this, Ryan. I've regretted a lot of things, I said, but this won't be one of them. She departed. I locked the door behind her. The house became quiet again. Will emerged from where he'd been hiding and brushed against my leg as if he knew I needed it. That night, I received a call from a number I didn't know. I let it go to voicemail. Then I heard the message. It was my mother, and her words made my blood run cold. I didn't want to do this, Ryan, but you leave me no choice. If you're not going to help willingly, then maybe your company would like to know what kind of person they're really employing. You've got a nice life. It would be a shame if you lost it. That's when I understood. This wasn't a family reunion. This was extortion. And it was only beginning. I didn't listen to the voicemail more than once. I didn't have to. Every syllable was etched into my memory, as if someone had stamped it there. My mother's soothing, almost compassionate voice, laced with a warning that felt so familiar, made something deep inside me twist. It was the same tone she used when I was a child, and she wanted something from me. The same tone that night when she told me I was too much. The same tone as she drove me to the shelter, saying, "You'll be fine, Ryan. You always are." That night, I didn't feel well. I walked the living room until the carpet probably had a path worn through it. I replayed everything in my mind, wondering how far she'd go, and why she thought I still had anything to offer her after the childhood she'd given me. If she was willing to show up at my house unexpectedly, bring her astonished daughter as a prop, and then proceed to threats, what would she do next? The answer arrived the following morning. I woke up to 20 missed calls, not from unknown numbers, but from work. My manager, 2 coworkers, even HR. My stomach sank. I sat on the side of my bed, staring at the notifications while cuddled against my leg like a living stress ball. HR left a brief, concise voicemail. The person sounded like they were trying not to panic. "Ryan, we need to speak with you immediately. It's urgent. Please call back as soon as possible." My chest tightened. I called back. They answered on the first ring. "Ryan, hi. Thanks for returning our call. We received several concerning messages this morning." My heart pounded. From who? There was a pause. Too deliberate. A woman claiming to be your mother, of course. the HR representative said, clearing his throat. She stated that you've been violent, unstable, and that she was concerned for the safety of your coworkers. She also mentioned something about you having anger problems and suggested we review your employment. I closed my eyes. She went straight for the lies that had the potential to destroy everything I'd worked so hard to establish. None of that is true, I answered, attempting to keep my voice calm. I figured as much, he said, but we have protocols. We'll need you to come in for a formal conversation. My throat felt tight. Okay, I understand. We're not accusing you of anything, Ryan, he clarified hastily. This just needs to be documented. I thanked him, hung up, and perched on the side of the bed, elbows on my knees, hands pressed to my eyes until colors appeared. I felt something snap inside me, not noisily, but quietly, like a seam tearing after years of pressure. I knew that no matter what I told HR or how much evidence I had, her remarks had already planted a seed, and seed spread. By lunchtime, I was sitting in a small, windowless office opposite my manager and the HR representative, both of whom looked incredibly uncomfortable. I explained everything carefully, calmly, and without emotion. I told them about her showing up, the envelope, the threats. I left out the specifics I didn't want to revisit, but I told them enough to make it clear that the problem was far more complicated than a dissatisfied relative. They claimed they understood. They stated they believed me. But they also said something that has stayed with me. Ryan, until this is resolved, it may be best to take a leave of absence. Just temporarily. For your safety and ours. I didn't argue. I could see in their eyes that the choice had already been made before I even walked into the room. When I left the office building that day, carrying a box of personal goods, I felt like I was 16 again. Everything I owned, thrown into a cheap bag, walking out into the cold with no one to call and nowhere to go. Even though I had a house and wasn't the same child, the sensation clung to me like an old friend. For the next few days, I barely left my house. I disconnected my landline and blocked all unknown callers on my phone. My mother kept changing phones, calling, messaging, leaving voicemails laced with a sickening combination of sweet guilt and thinly veiled extortion. Ryan, sweetheart, I didn't mean for things to get so out of hand. Call me back. We need to talk or else things will get worse. You owe me this. You're being cruel. Your sister is crying. You can fix this. Just help us. Help us. I deleted everything without replying. But the silence did not indicate serenity. The silence provided an opportunity to dwell on it excessively. And when you've spent the majority of your life surviving rather than living, having to slow down feels like punishment. Every night, I replayed the moment she abandoned me in the shelter. She let the door close without looking back. I cried into my pillow when the staff informed me that there wasn't enough money for a Christmas supper that year, and now she needed assistance. She asked me to help her up. There were times that week when I wondered if she was correct. Maybe I did owe her something, or maybe I was being selfish by rejecting her. But then I would recall her expression when I approached her. How swiftly the sweetness disappeared. How swiftly she switched into menacing mode. How natural it was for her to want to ruin my life since I didn't give her what she wanted. That is not something that family does. Not a real family. Toward the end of the week, after too many restless nights, something shifted in me. Not unexpectedly, but subtly. Imagine waking up one morning and noticing the season has changed. I got up, showered, made coffee, and stood in the kitchen staring at Will, who sat on the counter as if he was paying rent. I can't stay like this, I told him. He blinked. Exactly. So, I started reconstructing. Not loudly, not swiftly, but gently. I began by fixing up the garage. Something productive to help me get out of my head. I reorganized shelves, cleaned tools I hadn't used in months, disassembled an old engine block, and rebuilt half of it. The work provided me with unexpected stability. It was pleasant to take something damaged and restore it piece by piece. Unlike humans, engines made sense. They did not lie. They did not manipulate. If something did not function, there was a reason. In just a few days, the garage looked better than it had in years. I felt lighter every time I entered it. Then came exercise. I began going for short walks, which grew into lengthy walks, then jogging, and finally serious workouts with weights I dug out of a closet. It wasn't about changing my appearance. It was about proving to myself that I could keep moving forward, even when everything seemed stalled. Then I gradually began reaching out to people. Not friends. I didn't have many friends. Only coworkers who would always invite me to lunch, which I respectfully declined because being around people was tiresome. After hearing about my leave of absence, a number of them texted me to see whether everything was all right. I didn't tell them everything, but I also avoided isolating myself. Liam, one of my coworkers, offered me to help him with a garage project. He had an antique motorcycle he wanted to rebuild, but wasn't sure where to begin. I hesitated at first, but eventually said yes. The distraction was helpful, as was the company. I even started therapy online, at first, because the thought of sitting in a room and talking about my mother felt like ripping off a scab that had grown thick over the years. Surprisingly, it didn't hurt as much as I had expected. If anything, uttering the words out diminished their impact. Week after week, I felt a shift. There was no remarkable transformation. It seemed more like I was finally retrieving aspects of myself that I hadn't realized were missing. I wasn't fixed. I wasn't whole, but I was rising. Silently, gradually, steadily, until the day everything cracked open again. It occurred on a Thursday afternoon. I was in the garage, working on the engine, when I heard a car drive into my driveway. I froze, not because I expected the worst, but because I recognized the sound. A distinct rattle in the engine, the uneven hum of tires in need of air. I hadn't heard that car in 15 years. I cleaned my hands on a rag and headed to the front of the house, expecting, hoping to be mistaken. But I wasn't. My mother walked out of the car, her hair tied up, sunglasses perched on her head. And she wasn't alone. A man I had never seen before climbed out of the passenger side, tall and heavy-set, with faded tattoos on his arms. He stared around the yard as if he was memorizing it. They both began walking toward my front porch. My heart sank, not from terror, but from the awareness that my modest reconstruction was insufficient to prevent the past from resurfacing. She appeared different this time, not polished or rehearsed. This was not a performance. This was something else. She paused at the foot of the steps and said, "Ryan, open the door. We need to chat." The man next to her cracked his knuckles, and I recognized that whatever she wanted now would be far worse than money or sympathy, a guilt trip or HR threats. This was something else entirely. And when I opened the door, knowing that the tranquil, quiet existence I was building was about to collide headfirst with the storm, I felt I'd escaped for good. I grabbed for the doorknob, and everything fell apart again. The doorknob was cold under my palm, and for a few moments I stood there, my heart thudding slowly and heavily in my chest, staring at the outline of my mother and the man through the frosted glass. I was not afraid. Not anymore. However, I would be lying if I said I wasn't angry. Not the heated, impetuous type of fury, either. This was cooler, more focused. The kind of rage that doesn't shout. It makes plans. I opened the door slowly and deliberately. My eyes were drawn to hers initially. Her smile was gone this time. "Ryan," she responded, sounding less confident than usual. "This is Brad. He is a friend." Brad didn't smile. He didn't offer a handshake. He merely stared me up and down as if he were measuring me for a casket. I nodded once. "You've got 2 minutes." "Nice to see you, too," she mumbled, passing me without waiting for an invitation. Brad followed her inside. I didn't move from the doorway. I wanted them to feel like unwanted guests. Every second they were in my space. She gazed about as if she had never seen the house before. "You've done well for yourself," she repeated. But this time it sounded forced, like a statement she had rehearsed and didn't believe. "I told you last time," I replied bluntly. You're not welcome here. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't serious, she added, sitting on the edge of the couch. And I wouldn't have brought Brad unless it was important. Brad folded his arms and leaned against the wall without saying anything. I looked at him. Is he your muscle now? My mother didn't flinch. No, he's a business partner. We've been trying to launch a new venture. Ah, there it was. Another pitch. Another scam. This was not about family. It never was. I stepped into the kitchen and grabbed a bottle of water, just to give my hand something to do. So, what's the current scam? Her expression stiffened. This isn't a hoax. It's a startup. We have a line on a commercial property downtown. Prime location. It needs some work, but once we get it flipped and leased, it will pay off handsomely. I leaned against the countertop. Let me guess. Do you want me to invest? Brad eventually spoke. His voice sounded low and flat, like gravel being ground beneath a tire. Not want. Need. I raised an eyebrow. I'm not a bank. No, my mother replied swiftly. You're not, but your family, and this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You left me at a shelter. She rolled her eyes, which made something deep inside me break. She seemed to be bored of hearing about it, as if I was the problem for not letting it go. Brad stepped forward. You have savings, a house, and a job. Well, I had a job. It would be a shame if things got complicated again. My blood ran chilly. My mother turned away. There it was, the actual play. This was not about a business venture. This was just another case of blackmail. How did you know about my savings? I asked. She shrugged. You're not that difficult to search up. I found your LinkedIn profile, firm bio, and address. I clasped my fingers around the water bottle. Brad smirked. Don't take it personally. It's just leverage. You have assets. We require capital. Do you want us to go away? Easy. You pay. Who will pay for it? I asked. My mother's voice was gentle. 12,000. That is it. Then we're gone. Or, I asked. Brad smirked, as if he had been waiting for me to say that. Or else things would become messy. And right then, something in me crystallized. It was no longer about surviving her games. This was about the end of them. I put the drink down and nodded slowly. All right. Brad blinked. All right. I gave him a serene grin. I'll give you the 12 grand, but I want something in return. My mother looked suspicious. Which kind of something? Sign a contract. I continued, saying that you will end all communication with me permanently, that you waive all rights to my assets, estate, and everything. You'll leave me alone forever. If you break it, I'll sue. Brad scoffed. You think we're stupid? I think you're greedy, I said, and desperate. There was a beat of quiet. I'll draft something, she said. Tonight. No need, I responded. I already have something, because I had been preparing for this. She left a voicemail threatening to contact my work. I didn't just erase it. I had archived it. I had transcribed it. I had it examined by a lawyer I know through Liam's garage project. It turns out that verbal threats linked to extortion and false charges are not a good look, particularly when documented. And the leave of absence from employment was not permanent. After HR contacted with legal, and I provided them the message and evidence, they apologized sincerely. I was not being let go. I was being protected. They even promised legal assistance if the situation worsened. In addition to restoring my routine, I spent the week creating a case. I already had the groundwork. I only needed the appropriate occasion to finish it. That moment was now. I've got a lawyer, I said. He will send the contract over by tomorrow. If you sign it and then disappear, I will wire the money. If you don't. I leaned in slightly. I'll make sure your employer is aware of Brad's criminal past. Oh, and Ava. She doesn't seem like the type who'd enjoy a wellness check from CPS, given what she posted on Facebook last week about watching her friend's baby for cash. My mother's face went pale. You wouldn't. I lied, I said. I already have. I hadn't. Not yet. But I would. I noticed it in her eyes. The first breach in her confidence was all I needed. You tried to ruin my life, I repeated slowly. But now I get to pick what happens next. Brad began to say something, but my look cut him off. You've got 25 hours, I said. Then I go public. Emails, voicemails, everything. I know people, good people. Your schemes won't survive it. They left. Gently. Slowly. There were no farewell shots this time. My mother didn't even look back. And after they were gone, I went directly to my laptop. I opened the folder labeled insurance. It was time to continue setting the trap. Because this was no longer about money. This was about making sure she never returned. And I had a strategy to make sure of it. Brad and my mother never signed the contract. I didn't expect them to. They were grifters, experienced manipulators, not business people. They played with guilt, power, and secrecy. Contracts and paper trails weren't part of their game. I wasn't shocked when the 25-hour window passed with no communication, no signature, no wire instructions sought. I was prepared, because I hadn't simply threatened to go public. I'd already started. The first domino fell the following morning. A burner email account, replete with a phony name, masked IP, and encrypted metadata, delivered a digital package to every business my mother had mentioned on social media, every investor she named, every Facebook friend who'd said, "So proud of you, Mama." Her landlord, the commercial real estate page she'd been flooding with bogus listings. A properly crafted message, polite but forceful, was appended to the PDF. You are being contacted regarding a pattern of fraudulent financial behavior associated with Mother's full name and her partner, Brad's full name. Attached was a dossier of evidence, which included voicemail recordings, transcribed blackmail attempts, Facebook posts soliciting unlicensed investments, a forged business license registration flagged as invalid by the local clerk's office, an incident report involving her estranged son, and workplace harassment. I didn't sign it. I didn't have to. The evidence spoke for itself. That same day, I delivered a handwritten and anonymous manila envelope to her landlord's office. Inside, there were actual copies of the identical paperwork, as well as images of the vehicle she'd been driving, which was unlawfully parked in a private commercial lot with a forged company decal in the window. I didn't stop there. A second envelope was sent to the Department of Consumer Protection, another to the local licensing agency, and another to the housing association where Brad had a history of evictions under various names. Each box was personalized, factual, chilly, professional, and untraceable. Because I didn't want vengeance that screamed. I desired wrath that resonated. By the end of the week, I learned via a mutual former coworker, Liam's cousin, small world, that someone matching Brad's description had gotten into a yelling match with 2 building inspectors outside a shuttered storefront on Main Street. Apparently, they attempted to create a health cafe with no permits, insurance, or building clearance. The lease was fraudulent. The down payment was forged. The sign was stolen from an old salon. Within 4 days, their company venture had disintegrated like wet paper in the rain. But that wasn't the most satisfying part. The truly rewarding part came later when I received a letter from the state attorney's office. It was official and formal. My mother and Brad were being investigated for many counts of attempted wire fraud, fabrication of legal documents, impersonation of a financial officer, and coercive threats. It turns out that one of the investors she attempted to dupe was an undercover financial crimes officer who targets small-time hustlers running real estate scams in the suburbs. They'd been chasing leads, unclear where the heart of the web was, until my dossier fell into their laps. I never had to testify. They never got that far. Brad was arrested 3 weeks later on an unrelated charge, assault. His laptop and phone were taken away while he was in prison. There were additional texts, audio recordings, and specifics of bargains and threats that paralleled what they'd done to me. My mother, slippery as ever, attempted to deny everything. However, in the world of email chains and call logs, denial only goes so far. She eventually accepted a bargain. In exchange for avoiding jail time, the victims would receive restitution. However, restitution required assets, bank accounts, and co-signers. She had none. The state garnished what little she had remaining. Her car was repossessed. Her name was added to an investor fraud watch list, thereby barring her from creating new business accounts. And Ava, the half-sister who once rolled her eyes at me in my own living room, attempted to pick up the pieces. However, following a viral Facebook post, a well-known story presented from the perspective of an abandoned kid began to circulate in local forums. Sympathy for her mother quickly faded. Ava reached out to me once more. A message on LinkedIn. I didn't know everything. I'm sorry. She lied to me, too. If you ever want to talk. I kept it unopened, because I had lost interest in reuniting with the folks who had abandoned me. I was creating something better. My employer gave me a full return to work with a discreet apology and a subtle promotion to a more independent position. They handled the legal aspect with elegance, even offering to pay for a portion of the lawyer I'd hired for HR protection. I didn't ask for it, but they insisted. Liam and I became real friends. Garage projects developed into weekend hangouts. I even helped him restore a vintage '84 Jeep, which now sits proudly in his driveway, clean and loud as heck. Therapy became simpler. I discovered terms for things I used to bury. I even began dating again. Nothing significant yet, but enough to remind me that certain individuals enter your life to protect it rather than break it. Will, my cat, remained unconcerned through it all, though I think he began sleeping closer to me at night, as if he realized that something heavy had been removed. I never received another letter, no knock on the door, and no stranger with another envelope. Just peace. Unremarkable, ordinary, delightful tranquility. And as for the garbage bag, I still have it, stashed at the back of my closet. The seams have torn. The plastic is fragile. However, it serves as a reminder of everything I refuse to become, rather than where I came from. And that's the final thing I'll ever bring up.